Chapter 1. I'm surprised you showed up. You disgust me, you stinky pauper. Chantelle Gorman pinched her nose with distaste as she stared at me in her extravagant evening dress. Chantelle, a young lady from a distinguished family in Oberlin City, had invited me to her birthday party, yet she openly shamed me in front of the other ladies at the event. A familiar evil smirk appeared on her face. How about I give you a shower? In the next second, she kicked me and sent me plunging into the swimming pool. To dress up nicely for her birthday party, I had spent all my savings, a measly $300, on a white dress. I scrambled back to the poolside, looking disheveled. My white dress, now translucent from the dampness, clung tightly to my body like kelp. The moisture felt uncomfortable. Her piercing gaze swept past my drenched body. Snickering, she taunted, "You're just a loose woman who sleeps with any Tom, Dick, and Harry. Do you enjoy exposing your granny lingerie to everyone?" With arms crossed on my chest, I frantically escaped from the scene without looking where I was headed. Laughter exploded behind me. Unfortunately, I ran around like a lost puppy, as I wasn't familiar with the layout of the massive villa. The sky darkened. I finally came to a halt when I bumped into someone's solid chest. My nose was immediately filled with a woody scent. Clutching my reddened nose, I whispered an apology. I am sorry." I heard a soft chuckle from atop. The man spoke in a beguiling voice. "Hi, kitty cat. Where are you from?" I looked up when I heard his attractive voice, and I momentarily lost myself in the beauty of his chiseled features that looked even more perfect under the moonlight. The man checked me out as well. The thin fabric could barely hide my hourglass figure under the moonlight. I appeared vulnerable, with my mouth gaping slightly from the shock. His eyes clouded over. Then, he scooped me up by my waist. He rasped, "Oh, and you're a seductive little kitty at that." Without hesitation, he kissed me on the lips, so fervently and passionately that I subjected myself to his loving. He smelled of sandalwood. Suddenly, I felt myself lifted off the ground. He had picked me up by the waist. I let out a tiny gasp and stared at him pitifully like a deer in headlights. He cheered up at my innocence. Smiling, he said, "Kitty cat, don't worry. I'll make you happy." I buried my head shyly in his chest, but deep within, I was smirking gleefully. Of course I wasn't afraid of him. Our encounter today was thanks to my careful planning. After all, I was a poor girl from the countryside who was scouted by an elite school due to my excellent grades. They offered me a full-ride scholarship and a generous stipend. I went off to college with high hopes, only to be mocked by Chantelle on the first day of school. I recalled Chantelle staring at the patches on my shirt, taunting, "Wow, they really admit anyone now, don't they?" It was because of that statement that my world plunged into darkness. At college, I was ostracized, locked in the bathroom, had nails placed on my seat, and had filthy water splashed on me. Chantelle and I might be college mates, but we couldn't be more different in our social status. I thought she'd spare me if I kept my silence, but she grew so emboldened that she challenged the rules. This was a woman who drove a sports car into me just because it was fun. After that incident, she strutted to me in her high heels and threw a wad of cash onto me. "You ran into my car just for the compensation, didn't you? Here, just take it." I recovered only after a 3-month hospital stay. However, Chantelle had burned the skin of my thigh with a cigarette butt simply because the president of the student union, Kyle Lamont, came to visit me at the hospital. "Don't you know I had my eyes on Kyle first? How dare you seduce him?" I thought she would drive her car into me and murder me for good this time, but to my surprise, she extended me a birthday party invitation. I stared at the invitation card in my hand, knowing this was my chance. I had to teach Chantelle a lesson tonight, or she'd continue giving me trouble in the future. With that in mind, I clung to the man's neck and rasped, "Be gentle. It's my first time." Chapter 2. Duh. The next day, Chantelle was stunned at the sight that greeted her when she entered her dad's bedroom. She found my petite, nude frame in his bed. I was deep asleep in his arm at that time. Enraged, she lunged at me and attempted to yank me out of the bed. She insulted me, "You cheap whore. You just can't stop yourself from sleeping with just anyone, can you? How dare you sleep with my dad? Go to hell." I did not fight back, only looking at her with puppy eyes before pulling my gaze away and shutting my eyes. My trembling shoulders, though, hinted at my fear. "All right, Chantelle, stop it." A satisfied Andrew Gorman propped his head in his hand and lounged on the bed, lazily watching us. "Dad, how dare she seduce you?" Chantelle stopped what she was doing, but she continued grumbling and acting cute. Andrew glanced at me. I was silently crying, head hanging low. He assured Chantelle, "She's just another woman. I have to take care of my needs after your mom passed away." But, "All right, you're an adult now, so stop making a scene. Get out." Chantelle shot a piercing look at me before reluctantly releasing me. "Dad, for years, I never minded you dating, but what right does that woman have to stay the night? She shouldn't be sleeping in your bed." Her anger flared up as she spoke, but she was oblivious to her own behavior. Her voice even took on a demanding, interrogative tone in the end. Andrew's face fell, and he kicked her out. "Get out." Andrew had carried me to the dining table for breakfast that morning. Chantelle's eyes popped out in shock when she saw us. I smirked quietly. This was part of my deliberate planning. Just now, I lay on the floor after Chantelle had left. I remained there until Andrew asked about me. Then, I bashfully explained that he made me weak in the legs from all the pounding last night. His mood improved greatly upon hearing that remark, which was the highest compliment from any woman. In high spirits, he happily carried me to the first floor for breakfast. Chantelle had lost her appetite by now. She suddenly piped up, "If only Mom were still around." Her comment instantly dampened the mood. She stared at me smugly as she recounted her childhood memories in front of Andrew. Finally, she wrapped up by saying, "Dad, I don't mind you having girlfriends over the years because I knew you promised Mom you'd never remarry." She pointed a finger at me. "Dad, date anyone but her. I really don't like her. Please don't date her." After a prolonged silence, Andrew nodded slowly. His response wiped the frown off her face. She excitedly hugged him and gave him a peck on the cheek. "Dad, you're the best." Then, she arrogantly placed her hands on her waist and yelled at me, "Get lost." I glanced at Andrew affectionately with misty eyes, but I did not plead. "Okay, now, she'll have her breakfast before she leaves." Silence hung in the air. He finally asked, "Oh, kitty cat, I forgot to ask for your name." "I'm Louise Bellamy." I quickly lowered my head after answering him. "I'm done with breakfast." He frowned at the bread in front of me, which was barely touched. Still, he instructed his driver to give me a ride home. Life after that night was challenging, as Chantelle increased her attachment attacks on me more fearlessly. You think you're better than anyone else just because you slept with my dad? You reek of poverty, and you'll never be able to get rid of it. You'll always be beneath me. Oh, really? Smirking, I slowly caressed my belly. Unbeknownst to Chantelle, I came from a line of women with unusual fertility. Women in my family would get pregnant easily, and their pregnancies were always a breeze. My mom gave birth to 10 children, 8 of them sons and 2 of them daughters. My aunt, on the other hand, gave birth to 8 sons. After that night with Andrew, I felt the inception of life in my womb. Chantelle, the so-called princess of Oberlin City, thought she could get her way every time because she was Andrew's only heiress. Now, she had competition. Chapter 3. I tried my best to stay out of Chantelle's way, but she managed to run into me somehow. My cheek became swollen from getting slapped by her minion, but I refused to apply any medicine to it, as I knew a pair of eyes had been following me. I knew for a fact that Andrew missed me. Only when I became an adult did I learn that the females in my family were seductresses. On top of being unusually fertile, Andrew was hopelessly hooked after the passionate night he shared with me, and he wanted more after getting his first taste of me. Ever since sharing a night with me, he couldn't come across any other woman who was as compatible in bed with him as me. No one else could send him to heaven. Therefore, I wasn't surprised when I found him spying on me. I believed his patience had worn thin by the 30-day mark. So, I went up to Chantelle before class ended, and I challenged her. You're only picking on me because you're scared I would marry your dad. Chantelle looked down on my actions that were akin to social suicide. You should look into the mirror. You're delusional for thinking you could marry my dad. We'll get to know very soon. I had been avoiding Chantelle for days before this, but today, I suddenly underwent a change in attitude and publicly provoked her. As expected, she fumed. Her minions surrounded me, shoving me around and insulting me. When I spotted Andrew's presence, I mouthed at Chantelle, you idiot. Chantelle was easily provoked. Like I had imagined, she charged at me like a bull. As Andrew neared us, I lowered my gaze and pleaded timidly, Chantelle, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I don't know what I've done wrong, but I will apologize to you. Chantelle did not let it slide. Instead, she pushed me to the floor with all her might. She straddled me and slapped me twice in the face. My belly, it hurts so much. She's bleeding. Someone let out a scream. In the next moment, Andrew lifted me in his arms from the floor. The despair in my eyes turned into agitation. That's our baby. Silence spread in the air after I let out that information. Andrew placed me in his stretch Lincoln limousine, and we sped all the way to the hospital. After performing some checkups, the doctor confirmed that my baby was safe, which did not come as a surprise to me. I was, after all, the daughter of my mom, a woman who had fallen off her bed a few days before childbirth and yet remained utterly unharmed. I hugged the stunned Andrew tightly like he was a hero. Thank God. Thankfully, you got there in time and saved our baby. What would I have done without you? I buried my face in his chest and sobbed softly. As a CEO with a huge net worth, Andrew wished to have a big family and many offspring. However, despite his best efforts to impregnate the women he slept with, he did not manage to produce another child with anyone after Chantelle's birth. My pregnancy came as a pleasant surprise just as he was about to lose hope. Chantelle arrived belatedly at the hospital, but the security stopped her at the entrance. She seated at the sight of my belly. Andrew, steeped in the joy of fathering a child, failed to notice the evil look that flashed across Chantelle's eyes. Louise, you're my lucky charm. Come home with me. I'll give my son the best. Before I could speak, Chantelle pushed the bodyguards away. She lunged at me, unable to hold back her feelings. Dad, she isn't even worthy to clean my shoes. How could she live under the same roof as me? I won't go home if you bring her home. Then, she cast a smug look at me.